Hi, this is Paula Jane again, and welcome to Microsoft Ignite. And I'm here with Adam. How's it going?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
All good. Thanks so much for your time.
You're more than welcome.
Everybody knows you, obviously, but if you could introduce yourself to our listeners, that would be fantastic.
Great. So my name is Adam Hall. I'm a director of security product marketing at Microsoft. I lead the team that does all of the Microsoft 365 security services.
Great. That's very cool because I do cybersecurity by myself.
Excellent.
So there's plenty of subjects, I believe. Okay. So let's start with something personal at the beginning, and we're going to end up with technology.
All right.
What was your first job?
My first job, I worked in a bakery. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, worked till lunchtime. That was how I got through high school, saved enough money to go to college, and paid my way through college.
That's pretty impressive because I was also working in a bakery. Is there something that security people can have in common?
Maybe it's a prerequisite, I don't know.
Yeah, you have to work in a bakery to be in security.
Absolutely.
And what do you do in your free time?
I'm a cyclist. I like to ride bikes up big hills like mountains in the Alps and go out and ride gravel bikes and get dirty and muddy and wet, so it's fun.
Do you actually find time to do it at your work?
I do. I'm a big fan of work-life balance or life-work balance as I like to call it,
Okay.
So I'm not afraid to get out early, go for a ride, and make sure that I get out for a ride at least one day on the weekend.
Sure, I'm asking because Microsoft has invested so much in security, right? So there are so many different types of solutions. Machine learning is definitely on board.
Yep.
So what is the future for security in your opinion?
So I think the cloud allows us to do things in security we could never do before, just pure scale. We talked about the 6.5, 7 trillion signals we get per day. We talked just the sheer power involved in crunching all of that and finding the rich insights from all of the noise. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we can do as a company is to say, when we've got all of that signal across users and devices and apps and data and everything, is to help our customers understand that they can't look at that amount of data. We can. And if we can surface to them those kinds of insights, that's the value that we can bring to the security ecosystem. And I think that our focus on open is really important too, where we've done the Graph API, we've done SDKs, we're quite happy to share signals backwards and forwards with other partners.
Very
We
nice.
have to work together because the bad actors out there, they don't care which company it is, they just want the data at the end of the day.
Do you find it challenging, for example, to talk with customers about security nowadays?
You know, I think it's shifted a lot in the last 12 months. It used to be, oh, security, yeah, I guess we'll get to that kind of thing. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I need to be doing something right now. Please tell me the first thing that I should do right now.
All right.
So very much the conversation has shifted from, yeah, maybe to now.
And what do you think impacted the change, by the way?
I think the high-profile breaches that we saw,
Yeah.
those become very impactful when you see large corporates who, should have had the best infrastructure and security in place getting breached in very large and embarrassing ways. That's a signal to the ecosystem that anybody is vulnerable, anything can happen to anyone.
That is actually a pretty nice thing that you said. You know, when there's a breach that happens, like, since we are in security, what should be like happy about it, because it's a kind of sad situation, but at the same time, it increases awareness, so it's a kind of a good event, right? What's your approach to this?
I look at it as doctors don't get happy when there's an outbreak of a flu virus or something, right? They're there to help and to help heal and remediate and make better. It's the same for us. We want to do the best we can to stop things happening in the first place, but we know that they still happen. And so we need to do a really good job at detecting the breach, advising really quickly, and giving awesome tools to then fix it afterwards. We have to assume breach. We have to assume that it's happening. There's only 2 types of companies on the planet, those that have been breached and those that don't know they've been breached.
Absolutely.
And so therefore it's like, okay, if we operate in that world, we're all sick and we all have to go to the doctor and get better. And that's called security right now.
That is exactly the security. What is your opinion about the PowerShell being actually used nowadays as an attacker's tool?
It's always a double-edged sword, isn't it? When you have a very powerful tool that can do good, it can also be used for bad. And I think that it's just the reality where, I've worked with Jeffrey Tnova for a long time and we work together on things, and I think he would agree that there's work that we can do to allow PowerShell to be used for good, but to also detect when it's been used for bad. And some of the signals that we get now from PowerShell, for example, we start to see large volumes of things going on where it's like, that would normally happen once, and we just saw it happen 200 times. Like, that's not normal.
That's an anomaly.
And so I think that we can all do a better job of saying, let's let the tools be used for good, but also detect if they're used for bad.
That sounds good. And do you see, for example, for that anomalies detection and so on, machine learning to be a feature of security?
I definitely think so. I mean, there's we did some math. And so we took the 6.5 trillion signals that we get from the email systems every day, and we went, how do we make that a number that people can understand? And so we came up with 2 statistics. The first is, if a human looked at one signal every second, it would take 200,000 years to look at what we look in one day. The other one is, at the beginning of humanity, of what we call modern man, if we started looking at those signals from that point, we'd only just been able to finish a month's worth of signals at this point in time.
Yep.
The numbers are just huge. And so if we don't have machine learning, if we don't have heuristics, if we don't supplement that with all of the research that the 4,000 researchers that we have, we'll never be able to combat what's going on. So it's very much fundamental.
So if someone wants to jump into security, would you advise, for example, that that person becomes familiar also with the machine learning?
I think machine learning and AI, and also just we still see security professionals who need to understand the core fundamentals of encryption, SSL, HTTPS. Like, it's all very well to know the fancy stuff, but if you don't understand the fundamentals of security, then you're doing smart things without understanding what the impact might be. So I think they should, but I also encourage people to really learn the basics as well.
I so much agree with you, and I'm definitely on the same page. And there's actually Financial Times that quoted like one thing last year, and they said that by 2019 we're going to be in the need of a 6 million cybersecurity professional.
Wow.
But with the current development, we're going to have like from 4 to 5 million. So
Wow.
we're like 1.5 million soldiers short.
We're a bit short.
Yes.
We're a little short.
So this is actually pretty good news, right? Because
It is, yeah. It is a career path, and I think security, if I go back way too far to the beginnings of my career, security wasn't a dedicated role. There was no CISO, there was no SOC, there was none of that. It was just,
IT.
I'm an IT admin and I happen to fiddle with some ACLs or something. Now there is a whole range of capabilities within the security profession, and so there's lots of options there, and it's an exciting, fun, hard, challenging place to work. If that spins your wheels, you should think about security.
And you could do security in developers area, right? And you can do
Absolutely.
security in so many other options, right?
All coders should know about security.
Of course.
All security professionals should understand at least the fundamentals of code development.
There's the part of identity.
And IT admin should know a bit of both. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's also a big challenge, right?
Yes, very much so. And there's a strong profession, there's a growing profession. You can work in the big tech companies, you can work in individual companies, it doesn't matter. There's partner ecosystems. There's lots to go around.
So here's the thing, because you said that we all like need basics, and I so much agree on that. Like every single time I'm, for example, doing the penetration test at the customer side, everybody says like, oh, I've got like 20 years of experience working in IT and so on. But at the end, we learn that it doesn't really matter because security is new to everybody and it's changing like every day.
Yep.
Do you find the same kind of like problems or issues at your work that security can become challenging?
It still is challenging every day. I mean, I've been in this industry 25, 26 years now, and it's still new every day. We still learn things and we still make mistakes. I think there's also, you bring up a good point, which is we need the quote-unquote older generation like me to distill down some of those fundamentals that don't exist anymore. Like, bootstrapping and BIOSes and things like that are like things that the iPhone generation don't even know what that is.
Absolutely.
And yet it's an attack vector. And so it's on us to make sure that the legacy never goes away. Like, there are customers and other people that have like 20, 30 years of technology in their environment. That's all an attack surface. And so it's on us to help educate and understand, to bring the new side, to say, well, we know the old way, you know the new way. Well, why don't we both work on this together and get the best of both worlds? And
in security, sharing is caring. Yes, because it's like challenging for everybody, at the same time.
Absolutely. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And regarding the knowledge part, it's a very interesting subject. So let's talk about that. So in universities, what is also quite interesting, that different universities, they started to introduce the security programs. So it is actually becoming a job.
Yep.
Do you think that it's a good idea or bad? Because if you learn security at the university, after you finish it after 5 years, is this actually valid?
I have an interesting perspective on that. I have a degree in psychology.
Okay.
So I have no formal education in technology at all. I've done some certifications and so on.
Okay.
And so my perspective is, I think having a college degree or some sort of tertiary education is a good thing because it teaches you how to learn and how to assimilate information. Do I think you need a security degree to be a security professional? I think there are some things that make sense, but honestly, I will take a smart, enthusiastic, challenged person and they will learn quickly. I love that just as much as someone that rocks in with 3 degrees, honestly. I take the person's attributes of wanting to learn, wanting to be challenged, and wanting to do good things. That's the most important thing. If you back it up with a tertiary education, hey, that's interesting and it's great, but I don't see it a blocker.
You said it like so perfectly. Actually, the question that I asked to guys when we are recruiting them, my question is, what happened yesterday? And it's a mindset that you just mentioned, right? So you need to be like super eager in security, very much updating yourself, and then this is like a good set, right?
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, I'm a big fan of being happy in what you do and being satisfied with what you do. And you can go and do a formal degree. I got a degree in psychology, and then I went, I don't really want to do psychology for a career. It was interesting, but I don't want to do it. I worry that some people are very attuned to, I need that degree to do that job. That's great. I'm happy for those people and they should do it. But I'm more about exploring and learning and growing. And honestly, 20 years later, anything I learned 20 years ago is history now. It's what I learned last year that matters.
What would be your advice for CISOs of the companies that just become CISOs?
I think my first my primary piece of advice would be, I talk to a lot of CISOs, and the biggest thing they're struggling with is their security posture. Is really understanding what is their security posture, what does it need to be, and having a plan from A to B. It's really easy to get caught up in like the minutiae of the detail and miss the fact that you're not making progress as an organization. And so their job is from the top down to really set the framework of, we care about these 4 things. These are the things that our business is existentially important for, and if that goes wrong, we're done. All right, let's focus on that first. The minutiae detail underneath will come, but you need that top-down program of A to B and how we're going to get there.
And for every company, the security is different, right? So it's also additional challenge because it's very hard to get some kind of a referencing, documentation even, right?
You go into an organization that is very dynamic, like advertising, or it's creative. That's very different to being in a highly regulated environment like health or technology. Adapt to the environment you're in, understand what the business needs you to do, to be, understand what your profile looks like and what it should be, and then have a plan to go from A to B. That's kind of the definition of a CISO.
Absolutely. And how Microsoft could help it with the solutions, identity management and so on. So what are the options?
So ultimately from us, that is CQURE. That's where all of our engineering firms are putting investment into it and saying, these are the things you should think about. Self-select the ones that are important to you, and we'll give you all the guidance around whether you're using it, how you should use it, guidance on how to do it, best practices and so on. That's our way of saying, here's what we do to run our business. And people forget that Microsoft for me has 3 levels. There's Microsoft the business where we run it. There's Microsoft the platform provider where we run big data centers. And then there's the services that customers consume when they run their business on ours. We run our own business first. And so our CISO, Brett Arsenal, thinks this way as well. What are the things he needs to do to protect Microsoft, the company, from all of this stuff? That informs how we do the platform, that informs how we do the services. And so it's really understanding that sort of ringed approach and understanding what your posture looks like and be able to measure it. You can't do something and don't measure that you actually made progress.
Yeah, this is the hardest part here.
Very hard part.
Especially for the new CISOs that are like, they just acquired a role and they're like, there's this big company that I have to manage right now.
That's why people love the dials and now the slidey bars in CQURE, is that it gives them a tangible visual for the human eye that says, my chart went up or my chart went down. I know I'm making progress or I know I'm going backwards. Like, either is okay, you just got to understand which one's happening. Yeah, and that security posture, I've also noticed that is quite a challenging for, new CISOs as we mentioned, but I had this meeting with a CISO and he was like, oh Paula, so I got this problem because there is this another CISO of the other company and they got hacked, so I'm so afraid of my position. So what do you think about that? Should CISO be actually fired when things are getting bad? I think it depends. And the only reason I say it depends is I think in most cases the answer is no, because if the CISO has a plan, has an action and shows that they had all the right things in all the right places and they just happen to be the unlucky person that was the first patient, then that's one scenario. Then there's the negligent side, which is I didn't do the right thing, I didn't understand my posture, I didn't have a plan in place, I couldn't figure out what was going on, then you're not actually doing your job. And so for me it really comes down to, did you do all the right things and you were unlucky? Or did you not actually do the right things? And I'm sorry, but yeah, you screwed up.
Exactly.
You gotta go.
It's a different situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's new for Microsoft and security for future?
So I think the 3 big news items that we've had at Ignite this week are the passwordless investment. So we need to get rid of the password. We need everyone to move to password environment. That's an awesome thing. The threat protection narrative around showing how we can bring these signals and how we can help all stop the bad actors together. And then CQURE from a posture point of view. Those are the big news items that we're trying to stop the bad guys at the front door, or by bad people I should say at the front door. We're trying to help people understand what their posture is and then expose to them the signals and the correlations of things they need to care about. Those are the three big things that we can do as a security vendor for our customers.
That sounds good. Okay guys, thank you so much for listening. There is lots of things happening in security. Stay tuned from Microsoft Ignite. Thank you so much.
Thank you.